Good afternoon. This is Dr. Sutton with another episode of See It Through, Hustle for Success, an MDI Prep podcast focusing on building communities and individuals through education. As always, we want to recognize the supporters of MDI Prep, and our partner for this episode is Ike's Barbecue, located at the corner of Old Spanish Trail and Peerless Street in Houston, Texas. A wonderful place to stop and pick up something quick if you're on the go. Their award-winning sausages and smoked chicken are amazing. Not to mention their barbecue ribs, which are so tender, you don't need teeth to eat them. They're open, so get your to-go order today. That's 6500 Peerless Street at OST, right off the 288 freeway. Or call them at 713-825-5954. That's Ike's Barbecue. So the title of today's episode is Keep the Motor Running. That's the title of our episode today. So everyone knows about what's going on in the world with the pandemic, and with this COVID-19 now entering the third month, many families and businesses have been grounded to help prevent the spread of the virus. We are being advised to practice social distancing and encouraged to limit our travel outside the home. So what does that mean for the extrovert, like myself and many others, whose businesses rely on building relationships, interacting with individuals face to face? Well, I guess it means we have to adjust and use this time to work on our business instead of working in our business. Despite the shutdowns, there will be life after the pandemic has subsided. And it's in our best interest that we sow seeds now so we can have plenty to harvest later. Hence the name of this episode, Keep the Motor Running. So I'm so excited to have in our studio today a speech pathologist with over 20 plus years of experience working with youth in the school district. She is here today to share with us information that is relevant for students and parents alike. So let's welcome in our studio today, Elaine. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. So first of all, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into speech. How'd you get into that?
Well, I was initially, when I was in the military, after I graduated high school, I worked in the hospital ordering medical supplies, and I had a close friend who worked in the occupational therapy department. So on my breaks, I would go down to the occupational therapy department and visit her. So that kind of got me interested in the healing arts and how the therapies, physical therapy, speech therapy, and all that worked. So when I got out of the military, I went to school to become a speech pathologist at Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas. So graduated with my master's in 1997 and have been practicing ever since. I did go back to school. I went to UNT to complete my degree to become a behavior analyst. So I still have completed all my coursework, but still need to complete my
the rest of it.
The rest of it.
Right. I got you.
So
I got you. Well, first
still
of all,
working on that.
Right.
So I'm keeping the motor going on that.
Keeping the motor going. That's right. I like that. That's right. Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
We definitely appreciate that. So, tell us what type of kids that you work with. What is your typical student load look like?
Well, all of the students that I work with have an identified disability. It can be receptive or expressive. It could be in the area of fluency, so they may stutter. They also may have some social or pragmatic issues if they're if they have an autism spectrum disorder. So we work with just an array of students because I'm in a school district that have communication difficulties.
Now, let me ask you this, and I'm just curious about the autism that you just mentioned, because I know there are different degrees of autism, correct?
They're on a spectrum.
They're on a different spectrum, exactly. And just for our audience who may not be aware of that spectrum, what does that spectrum look like? What is the different spectrum of autism?
Well, you may have students that have that may not have, it's the degree of the certain uh, communication issues or the behavior issues that are the core features of autism. So you may have a student that has mild symptoms, and then you may have a student that may have more severe symptoms. And so it's just along that spectrum and how they fall, because their needs are going to be different,
I see.
the services are going to be different based on how they fall on that spectrum and what their needs are.
So does every child that has autism require speech?
No.
Oh, I
No.
see. Because I think a lot of people, sometimes when they think of autism, they think of this student or child who basically has trouble verbalizing and things like that. And so when people think of speech, it's not just stuttering.
No. And
Okay.
it's not just they have problems producing or making a specific sound. It can be social anxiety. It can be just understanding language. We also work with students that have, or people that have had a stroke, and so different aphasias and swallowing difficulties. It's a very, very interesting field, because we work with people from, all stages of life.
I see. And I think for a lot of people who've ever watched the movie Rain Man, and we saw that movie there, and that was some degree of autism, I'm assuming, and where he was able to just, I guess, with numbers, he was able to drop a box of matches and count, know exactly how many matches were in the box and things like that. Is that actually true? Is that actually something that they can actually do?
It is. Autism is such an interesting disorder, because my students never cease to amaze me, and I never put them in a box and think that, okay, because I had one student that could do this, then they're all going to be able to do this, or they're not going to be able to do this. You just keep an open mind and have high expectations for them all, because they have truly phenomenal minds, and they can do truly phenomenal things. So being able to just to have the mathematic abilities, and it's just amazing to actually see what they know.
Right.
So.
Because I can imagine. So, and what's odd is that a lot of times, I think people, they think of autism, they think of these things like this, and they think that these kids are like, maybe there's no structure, or there's, but from what I've heard is that there's quite the opposite, that they actually like structure, that they actually like a system or a routine. Is that true?
Well, they may not like it.
Okay.
But they seem to function better with it. Now, when you mentioned earlier, when you asked me if a student or if someone has an autism spectrum disorder, will they be, receive speech therapy services automatically? Well, communication deficits, or having a communication deficit, a deficit, is one of the core features of autism. But again, because it's on that spectrum, it really depends on the severity. But we do collaborate with the other service providers to make sure that communication is being addressed. So now when students are more challenging, and even sometimes the students that may not have as many challenging behaviors, still providing that structure within their environment is key, because by nature or by the nature of the nature of the disorder, they're already going to kind of isolate themselves from someone. So providing that structure, just making sure that they have minimal time by themselves. Okay. And that they are using that time to interact with others. That's what we really promote, is just increasing that interaction with other people, whether they like it or not.
Well, and that's interesting. Considering right now, like what we just talked about with the with the COVID-19 and the basically the social distancing and limiting the contact with others. So what type of, I guess, advice would you give to parents, during this time right now in our nation, that's everything that's going on, to keep the motor running, to keep those students as best, I guess, in a good structured manner? What would you advise the parents?
Well, this is a very trying time. It's requiring us to really look at how we can provide services remotely and provide that support to our parents. But what I would say, it's just at home. If they do have the ability to design some sort of workspace for their child,
Okay.
And then, and I was talking to a teacher yesterday who also said if they have a visual schedule at school, to if the teacher could provide that to the parent, and the visual schedule is their day at school in pictures or in words.
Okay.
Okay. And it's just that, from 8 o'clock to 8:30 is reading time. Just having that set up so it looks kind of the same as it, as they're set up at school. And then it's also important to communicate with the classroom teacher, and I hope that the teachers are communicating with the parents during this time, that the same reinforcers that are used at school, that they're using the same at home. Because there may be, and vice versa, because when our kids come to school, we always ask the parent, what are some things that your kid works best for? Because the parent knows the child the best. But there may be some things at school that we may use that now is the time that the parent is asking us, okay, how do you get them to complete an assignment? Or when now that they're home, they're in home mode. Okay, so it's going to be, again, just staying in contact with the classroom teacher and those service providers so that we can help navigate how to provide these services remotely and decrease the amount of stress that this may create for parents.
And so that kind of brings me to my next question is, how do you, now with this going on, how do you continue that continuity of care?
Well, again, creating a workspace, and then also.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is between. Well, I mean, before you could just literally, have a parent teacher meeting or something like that. They would come up to the school, and so now with this going on, and hey, I got to be 8 feet from you, and that kind of thing. What are you all doing now to keep that continuity of care going?
Well, we're setting up video conferencing.
Okay,
and
that's
then
good.
Also for our students, I think it would be helpful if they could FaceTime their teachers or service providers so that they can actually see them, and hopefully that's reinforcing.
So that means they get to have your home number.
Yes,
oh my goodness! So then that means
I think that during this time that it's crucial that parents have the contact numbers for service providers so that they do so that we can maintain the skills that the students have.
That's
we
right.
don't want them to lose skills during this time.
That's right. You got to keep the motor running.
You got to keep the motor running.
That's right. That is our theme. That is the see it through theme for this COVID-19 is that we will keep the motor running. So okay, so that's great. So those are some things that the parents can do to keep this going. Now, just from the educator perspective, from the educators, from the providers, what do you think would be imperative for those who are out there listening to kind of help prepare for when the kids come back? So what are you doing to prepare for the kids when they come back?
Well, what I'm doing is staying in contact with my parents, and then also just staying abreast with the different changes that may take place with how services are going to be provided, taking care of all of the paperwork, that I can do now, so that when school does start back, then my focus is on the students and what their needs are, and how to get them to get them back into the rhythm of school again.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. And that's something. And so I guess it's important for teachers also to keep the motor running.
To keep the motor running. Yes.
Well,
but now is a good time to get caught up on you know, those hours, like if you want to study, just doing some continuing education hours.
Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely.
So now's the perfect time to take some online classes and online conferences. And
That's
things like
right.
that.
That's right. And one of the things that that I guess we preach at MDI Prep is that we try to maximize every moment that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a poem that I love. It's by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the poem basically goes, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it.
Mm-hmm.
Forced upon me, can't refuse it. Didn't seek it, didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it. Give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. And I love that poem because it really exemplifies what it means to keep the motor running.
Yes.
Is that, this moment in time that we are right now, that we're living in right now, is so important because what we do in this moment will shape eternity for us.
That's right.
And so what you all are doing, I really applaud you all. I applaud educators out there who are making a difference in these children's lives. And if you had any, I guess, words of wisdom, of words of encouragement, or things to you want to say, you're speaking to one of your children right now, or a group of them. What would you say to them right now? Because they're not with you every day.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them right now?
That this is our new normal, but we will see you soon.
All right.
And we look forward to seeing you, and that we miss them, and we look forward to seeing them, and for them to just stay strong, stay healthy, and to study.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Elaine, for sharing those words of wisdom with us. And we hope you will definitely come back and see us again. Will you come back and see us?
Sure.
Well, great. Well, thank you. So we'll be back in just a second, and think about those words of wisdom by Elaine. And we're back. And so I just want to thank, I think it was so important, those words of wisdom that was given to us today by Elaine. But one of the things that we want to keep in mind is what it means to keep the motor running. And not only just keep the motor running, but right now is also a time for us to think about some things that we've done to even just start the car. Because there are basically entrepreneurs all around us, even within us. And I think this is a great time to encourage the entrepreneur inside of you. Think about something that you've always wanted to do, put it on paper, and then write down a few contacts, people that you think that you need to reach out to in order for that to happen. Pick up the phone, make a call, send an email, send an Instagram message, or whatever you need to do to reach out to them, because I think that's going to be super, super important. And I want to thank you for your support, for continuing to support the See It Through Hustle for Success. And as always, we wish you peace, prosperity, and much success. Have a good day.